Hey everybody, Christian Conrad here with 3, bringing you another great video. Today, we're going to be looking into one of the most unusual conflicts that's happening right now. And you probably wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe that this conflict has been going on for more than 15 months in the Indian state of Manipur. Conflicts of this nature usually get resolved within weeks in a normal democratic country. With a conflict that spans 15 months, there's a lot to talk about here, but we're not really going to get into every aspect, such as the tenuous Land Review Acts, the suspension of operations agreement that gives free rein to militants to do whatever they feel like doing, the incompetency of the current Manipur government, and the many problems that have ancient pedigree. So, are you ready here? Because this situation, I'm going to tell you right now, is very complex, mind you, and the actions and intents are hidden beneath layers and layers of vague complexities. Now, there are 30 or more different tribes in this small state of India. Tension has been simmering for decades. But except for a conflict or two, nothing too violent has happened. These 30 tribes fall into 3 main categories: the Metis, the Nagas, and the Kuki. Some of these have been living in what is now Manipur for thousands of years, and some of these people came as recently as 50 years ago. The Metis make up around 53% of the total population, and they live mainly in the Central Valley of the state. This Central Valley we're talking about is less than 10% of the total area of the state. The remaining 90% of the area, which is mainly hills, is inhabited by the Nagas and the Kukis. Just imagine what it must feel like to be the majority living on just 10% of what there is, unable to settle outside of the valley. So here's where things really kicked off. On May 3rd, 2023, all hell broke loose between the Kukis and the Metis. Now, what sparked it? Well, the Kukis organized the Tribal Solidarity March to protest a high court order. Basically, the court told the Manipur government to think about putting the Metis on the Scheduled Tribe, ST, list. It comes with special land rights, reservations, and other perks. But know this, it's not for anyone to deny Metis' rights. It's for the court to decide. You can't just protest on whim just because you fear this thing would strip away all the benefits you've been getting for the last 3 or 4 decades. There's one other thing that will intrigue most people. The Vice President of India, the second highest constitutional office in the country, was in Manipur, delivering a speech in Manipur University when the conflict broke out. There can't be any security lapse or intelligence failure in that situation. It's rich to say that there was lack of security on May 3rd. It seems that the violence was allowed to escalate. The state government also failed to respond to violence on May 3rd, 5th, and 6th completely. Just something to think about. Things went south real quick after that. Both sides started going at it, and I mean really going at it. We're talking thousands of houses burned down, hundreds of places of worship torched, people getting kidnapped, tortured, and unalived. This is brutal stuff. The Kuki militants did some horrific things to the Metis civilians, forcing thousands to run for their lives in crowded relief camps in the valley. In response, Metis village volunteers and some hardcore groups came out swinging to protect their people. The security forces tried to calm things down by creating buffer zones around the Imphal Valley, but that just made the Metis even more paranoid. If you put up a wall right now in a US state and reintroduce segregation, what do you think would happen? This buffer zone divided the state. It's essentially a ticking time bomb with everyone on edge and ready to blow. Fun fact, did you know that bombs nowadays don't make a ticking sound anymore? Isn't that interesting? And caught in the middle, regular folks just trying to live their lives. It's a mess, plain and simple. So, while all this chaos is going down, guess who's getting heat for not doing enough? You guessed it, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his government. Modi's party, the BJP, used to be a big deal in Manipur, but they took a beating in the elections. Voters from all sides kicked them out of the Indian parliament and threw their support behind the opposition Congress party instead. In an attempt to regain control of the situation, the Home Ministry, led by Amit Shah, took over security operations in the state. They appointed a former police chief as a secretary advisor and deployed a significant number of central forces. However, these measures did little to stem the tide of violence, as security forces struggled to navigate the deep ethnic divides. The deployment of the Assam Rifles became a whole other headache. The Metis were accusing them of playing favorites with the Kuki groups, saying they were arming and training Kuki militants. Some folks even claiming the army and Assam Rifles were handing out weapons to Kuki groups to use against Naga and Meti militants. There were plenty of videos floating around showing security forces all buddy-buddy with Kuki fighters. But on the other side, you've got the Kuki groups saying the state police are in cahoots with Meti groups to target them. It's like a never-ending game of he said, she said. However, one fact is obvious. With the chief minister stripped of control over security forces and decisions being made directed by the Home Ministry, he has been rendered largely powerless to address the situation effectively. So, what's the largest cause of this conflict? Illegal immigration. For the past 40 to 50 years, there's been a steady stream of Kukis sneaking in from Myanmar. We're talking thousands settling in Manipur's hills, often illegally putting up villages on forest lands and protected areas. This isn't anything new, though. Back in the 1840s, in the reign of Maharaja Nursing, who ruled Manipur from 1844 to 1850, during the Great Northward Movement, Kuki tribes came in droves, pushing out many of the older inhabitants. After India's independence, it happened in 3 waves. First, in the late 50s and early 60s during Burma's civil war, then around the '88 uprising in Burma, and finally after 2005 when some ceasefire between Assam Rifles and Kuki militant groups were signed. So this is when Kuki militant groups allegedly facilitated the settlement of Chin Kuki people from Myanmar to Manipur. Here's where it gets wild. The Kuki population in Manipur has exploded. We're talking a 230% increase in just a decade. Even conservative estimates show an extra 200,000 to 300,000 people that can't be explained by normal growth. If every Kuki woman bears a child every other year, they won't get to this level of population. It's pretty clear we're looking at some serious illegal immigration here. And if you want to get benefits from the central government, there was this practice of inflating tribal population figures in the census. Now, they used to do that. To make matters worse, there's this Any Kuki Tribes category on the scheduled tribes list that's been making it super easy for these new arrivals to claim benefits they shouldn't be getting. But there is more. Turns out many of these new settlements are knee-deep in poppy cultivation. We're talking massive patches of poppies in protected forests. Look at all these hill slopes. Between 2017 and 2021, Manipur recorded a loss of 758 square kilometers of forest and tree cover. Contrast that to the overall gain of 7,452 square kilometers for India as a whole. The scale of poppy cultivation suggests the involvement of experienced farmers, possibly immigrants from the Myanmar's Golden Triangle region where opium production is prevalent. The profits from this illicit trade are allegedly being used to gain political influence and fund militant organizations. The impact on Manipur has been devastating. The economy's tanked, unemployment's through the roof, and basic services like healthcare and education are barely hanging on. And, now this is very important, the rate of inflation in Manipur is the highest in the country. Throughout all this, Prime Minister Modi's been pretty quiet, which hasn't gone down well with the locals. His silence, except for condemning one viral video of assault, has left people feeling abandoned and lost faith in the BJP government. But the state government is adamant that Modi is doing enough. If they are doing enough, then why has this conflict been going on for 15 months? And every single time, whenever anything happens in Manipur, the Indian national media uses language that's so pointlessly colored and the facts so grotesquely whimmed that it's impossible to assess the situation. The central government's attempt to control law and order from Delhi has largely failed. So here's what we have to ask. What can be done to end this? Truth is, it's complicated. But it looks like empowering Manipur's own government might be a good start. They need to crack down on all militant groups, no matter which side they're on, and get those illegal weapons off the streets. Dealing with illegal immigration is crucial too. Updating the National Register of Citizens in Manipur could help identify who's who and make sure benefits are going to the right people. At the end of the day, this mess needs an unbiased approach that tackles the root causes. Land rights, political representation, and economic gaps between communities. It's a tall order, but it's the only way to break this cycle of violence and start healing. That is what is needed. The people of Manipur have been through hell, and it's high time their voices were heard. Everyone's watching and waiting for the Prime Minister and his government to step up and do something to bring this troubled region back from the brink. Hey, thanks for allowing us to inform you about this critical topic. If you find this video informative, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you'd like to support 3, please become a member of our channel through YouTube channel membership, starting from 29 rupees a month. Your support helps us to continue to bring comprehensive coverage of important issues like this. Things that need to be heard. Also, another way to support the channel if you're a big reader, you can purchase my book at a link below. We would super appreciate it. Thank you. I'm Christian Conrad, presenting for 3.